I will start my reading practice for Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. So here I am. From 2007 to 2009, I was on the road for 250 days a year and spoke to 5 lakh people at high schools and universities. I spoke at inner city high schools and tough neighborhoods, at dozens of historically black colleges and universities, and at schools with all cultures, shapes, and shades well represented. I had come a long way from fourth grade when I could not stand up in front of a class of 20 kids and say my own name without stuttering. Teenagers are walking, talking bullshit detectors, but the kids who heard me speak bought into my message because everywhere I stopped, I also ran an ultra race and rolled my training runs and races into my overall recruitment strategy. I had usually land in their own midweek in their town midweek, make my speeches, then run a race on Saturday and Sunday. In one stretch in 2007, I ran an ultra most every weekend. There were 50 miles races, 100-kilometer races, 100-mile races, and longer ones too. I was all about spreading the Navy SEAL legend that I loved and wanted to be true and living at ethos. Essentially, I had two full time jobs. My schedule was jammed full, and while I know that having the flexibility to manage my own time contributed to my ability to train for and compete on the ultra circuit, I still put in 50 hours a week at work, clocking in every day from 7:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. My training hours came in addition to, so not instead of, my work commitments. I appeared at upwards of 45 schools every month, and after each appearance, I had to file an after action report detailing how many separate events, an auditorium speech, a workout, etc. I organized, how many kids I spoke to, and how many of those were actually interested. These AARs were directly to my captain, went directly to my captain and the admiral. I learned quickly that I was my own best prop. Sometimes, sometimes I would dress in a seal t-shirt and a trident on it, run 50 miles to a speaking engagement and show up soaking wet, or I would do push-ups for the first 5 minutes of my speech, or roll a pull-up bar out on stage and do pull-ups while I was talking. That's right. The shit you see me do on social media isn't new. I have been living this life for 11 years. Wherever I stopped, I invited the kids who were interested to come train with me before or after school or crew on one of my ultra races. Word got out, and soon the media, local television, print, and radio showed up, especially if I was running between cities to get to the next gig. I had to be articulate, well groomed, and do well in the races I entered. I remember landing in Colorado, the week of the legendary Leadville 100 trail race. The school year had just started, and on my first night in Denver, I mapped out the 5 schools on my roster in relation to the trails I wanted to hike and run. At, at each stop, I would invite the kids to train with me but warn them that my day started early. At 3 a.m., I would drive to a trailhead, meet up with all the students who dared to show, and by 4 a.m., we would begin power hiking up one of Colorado's 58 summits above 14,000 feet. Then we would sprint down the mountain to strengthen our quads. At 9 a.m., I hit another school and then another. After the bell rang, I worked out with the football, track, or swim teams at the schools I visited, then ran back into the mountains to train until sunset. All of that to recruit stud athletes and acclimatize for the highest altitude ultra marathon in the world. The race started at 4 a.m. on a Saturday, departing from the city of Leadville, a working class ski town with frontier roots, and traversing a network of beautiful and harsh rocky mountain trails that range from 9,200 feet to 12,600 feet in elevation. When I finished at 2 a.m. on Sunday, A teenager from Denver who attended a school I had visited a few days earlier was waiting for me at the finish line. I didn't have a great race. I came in 14th place rather than my typical top 5, but I always made sure to finish strong. And when I sprinted home, he approached me with a wide smile and said, I drove 2 hours just to see you finish. The lesson: you never know who you are affecting. My poor race results meant less than nothing to that young man because I had helped open his eyes to a new world of possibility and capability that he sensed within himself. He had followed me from his high school auditorium to Leadville because he was looking for absolute proof my finishing the race that it was possible to transcend the typical and become more. And as I cooled down and toweled off, he asked me for tips so he could one day run all day and night through the mountains in his backyard. I have several stories like that. More than a dozen kids came out to pace and crew for me at the McNaughton Park Trail Race, a fun 50-miler held outside of Peoria, Illinois. 2 dozen students trained with me in Minot, North Dakota. Together we ran the frozen tundra before sunrise in January when it was 20 below zero. Once I spoke at a school in a majority black neighborhood in Atlanta, and as I was leaving, a mother showed up with her 2 sons who had long dreamed of becoming Navy SEALs but kept it a secret because enlisting in the military was not considered cool in the neighborhood. When summer vacation broke out, I flew them to San Diego to live and train with me. I woke their asses up at 4 a.m. and beat them down on the beach like they were in a junior version of first phase. They did not enjoy themselves, but they learned the truth about what it takes to live the ethos. Wherever I went, whether the students were interested in a military career or not, they always asked if they had the same hardware I had. Could they run 100 miles in one day? What would it take to reach their full potential? This is what I would tell them. Our culture had become hooked on the quick fix, the life hack efficiency. Everyone is on the hunt for that simple action algorithm that nets maximum profit with the least amount of effort. There is no denying this attitude may get you some of the trappings of success if you are lucky, but it will not lead to a calloused mind or self mastery. If you want to master the mind and remove your governor, self mastery. If you want to master the mind and remove your governor, you will have to become addicted to hard work because passion and obsession, even talent, are only useful tools if you have the work ethic to back them up. My work ethic is the single most important factor is in all of my accomplishments. Everything else is secondary, and when it comes to hard work, whether in the gym or on the job, the 40% rule applies. To me, a 40-hour work week is a 40% effort. It may be satisfactory, but that is another word for mediocrity. Don't settle for a 40-hour work week. There are 168 hours in a week. That means you have the hours to put in that extra time at work without skimping on your exercise. It means streamlining your nutrition, spending quality time with your wife and kids. It means scheduling your life like you are on a 24-hour mission every single day. The number one excuse I hear from people as to why they don't work out as much as they want to is that they don't have time. Look, we all have work obligations. None of us want to lose sleep, and you will need time with the family, or they will strip the fuck out. I get it, and if that's your situation, you must win the morning. When I was full time with the SEALs, I maximized the dark hours before dawn. When my wife was sleeping, I would bang out a 6 to 10 mile run. My gear was all laid out the night before, my lunch was packed, and my work clothes were in my locker at work. where I would shower before my day started at 7:30 a.m. On a typical day, I would be out the door for my run just after 4 a.m. and back by 5:15 a.m. Since that was not enough for me and because we only owned one car, I rode my bike. I finally got my own shit 25 miles to work. I would work from 7:30 a.m. to noon and eat at my desk before or after my lunch break. During the lunch hour, I would hit the gym or do a 4 to 6 mile beach run, work the afternoon shift and hop on my bike for the 25-mile ride home. By the time I was home at 7 p.m., I have run about 15 miles, rocked 50 miles on the bike, and put in a full day at the office. I was always home for dinner and in bed by 10 p.m. so I could do it all over again the next day. On Saturdays, I would sleep in until 7 a.m., hit a 3-hour workout, and spend the rest of the weekend with Kate. If I didn't have a race, Sundays were my active recovery days. I would do an easy ride at a low heart rate, keeping my pulse below 110 beats per minute to stimulate healthy blood flow. Maybe you think I am a special case or an obsessive maniac. Fine, I won't argue with you, but what about my friend Mike? He is a big time financial advisor in New York City. His job is high pressure and his workday is a hell of a lot longer than 8 hours. He has a wife and 2 kids and he is an ultra runner. Here is how he does it. He wakes up at 4 a.m. every weekday, runs 60 to 90 minutes each morning while his family is still snoozing, rides a bike to work and back, and does a quick 30-minute treadmill run after he gets home. He goes out for longer runs on weekends, but he minimizes its impact on his family obligations. He is he has high powered, wealthy as fuck and could easily maintain his status quo with less effort and enjoy the sweet fruits of his labor. But he finds a way to stay hard because his labors are his sweetest fruits, and he makes time to get it all in by minimizing the amount of bullshit clogging his schedule. His priorities are clear and he remains dedicated to his priorities. I am not talking about general priorities here either. Each hour of his work is he each hour of his week is dedicated to a particular task, and when that hour shows up in real time he focuses 100% on that task. That's how I do it too, because that's the only way to minimize wasted hours. Evaluate your life in its totality. We all waste so much time doing meaningless bullshit. We burn hours on social media and watching television, which by the end of the year would add up to entire days and weeks if you tabulated time like you do your taxes. You should, because if you knew the truth, you deactivate your Facebook account's stat and cut your cable. When you find yourself having frivolous conversations or becoming ensnared and or becoming ensnared and or becoming ensnared, there is a new word I'm learning. I will check its meaning. Ensnared in activities that don't better you in any way. Move the fuck on. For years I have lived like a monk. I don't see or spend time with a lot of people. My circle is very tight. I post on social media once or twice a week and I never check anybody else's feeds because I don't follow anyone. That's just me. I am not saying you need to be that unforgiving because you and I probably don't share the same goals. But I know you have goals too and room for improvement, or you wouldn't be reading my book. And I guarantee that if you audited your schedule, you would find time for more work and less bullshit. It's up to you to find ways to eviscerate your bullshit. How much time do you spend at the dinner table talking about nothing after the meal is done? How many calls and texts do you send for no reason at all? Look at your whole life. List your obligations and tasks. Put a timestamp on them. How many hours are required to shop, eat, and clean? How much sleep do you need? What's your commute like? Can you make it there under your own power? Block everything into windows of time, and once your day is scheduled out, you will know how much flexibility you have to exercise on a given day and how to maximize it. Thank you. That's it for the day.